3 insane true hidden camera horror stories that haunt you at midnight forever. It was a stormy night, thunder crashing like wild fists against the sky. There was a sense of dread, an electric charge in the air, tightening around every heart like a vice. As the clock struck midnight, 3 chilling stories were about to seep into the restless minds of the unsuspecting. Each tale twisted deeper into the shadows, where the unseen lurked, hidden cameras capturing the unspeakable. First, there was the case of the slightly off-kilter family that moved into a quaint suburban neighborhood. They seemed normal at first, but whispers followed them like shadows. The odd smell emanating from their backyard raised eyebrows, but no one dared to dig deeper. Until one night, a neighbor glanced through their window, only to find a shadowy figure in the flickering light of a television. The figure grinned, eyes glistening with an eerie spark, as it cradled something in its arms. When police searched the home, they found an entire room filled with hidden cameras, each monitoring the neighborhood. The footage replayed unending screams and whispers of conversations lost in the night. Nothing prepared them for discovering the truth behind that eerie grin. Then there was the story of a college dorm that had transformed into a real-life horror show. Students began noticing strange occurrences. Objects moved, whispers echoed in dark corners. They brushed it off as stress and exhaustion. But when one brave soul set up a camera to catch the ghost, what they discovered was horrifying. The footage revealed a student unseen stalking the halls at night, knocking on doors, and recording every terrified reaction. The final footage showed the student entering their room. The camera's last moments were that of frantic screams, silence, and static, leaving their fate wrapped in an unshakable fear. The third story struck with sudden intensity. An influencer, obsessed with documenting every moment of her life, unknowingly filmed a horror show unfolding behind her. Viewers became captivated by her daily antics until they noticed shadows lurking just outside her window during her nighttime vlogs. As comments flooded in, warning her, she brushed it off as her imagination. But when she finally checked her footage, gasping in horror as she replayed the tapes, she saw that strange figure creeping closer and closer to her home, night after night. Her fans witnessed the terrifying moment the figure finally crossed the threshold, vanishing into the darkness behind her. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The stories left a chill hanging, like fog on a cold windowpane. What lies behind closed doors? What happens in the silence when no one watches? Each thread pulled tighter, tightening the grip of curiosity. Were these true horror stories, just waiting for the next victim? And as the clock's hand slowly pointed to the witching hour, one could only wonder what happens when the hidden cameras capture you. The air in the room felt dense with anticipation, as if the walls themselves were aware of secrets hiding in the corners. Time crawled, each tick of the clock loud and ominous. Shadows danced across the floor, flickering with the dying light, teasing a darkness that felt just beyond reach. It was then that the next story began to unfold, a tale not far removed from the terror of the last 3, and yet it carried a weight all its own. Deep in the heart of a bustling city, a young couple had just returned from their honeymoon. Their home was cozy, filled with laughter and plans for their future. But unbeknownst to them, excitement was slowly morphing into dread. Soon after their return, they noticed items going missing. Small things at first. A favorite mug from the cupboard, a set of keys, family photos, mysteriously rearranged on the wall. They brushed the incidents aside, convinced that the exhaustion of travel was playing tricks on their minds. But as shadows grew longer and the nights drew near, unease crept in like a fog. One evening, unable to shake the feeling of being watched, they installed hidden cameras to catch whatever or whoever was stealing from them. Footage revealed their daily lives, an innocent snapshot of love. Until one night, the couple woke to the sound of creaking floors. Viewing the footage together, eyes wide with terror, they gasped. As the clock struck 2 a.m., a figure materialized from the shadows in their living room. Cloaked in darkness, it rummaged through their belongings, pausing every few seconds to look toward the camera with an unsettling smile. It didn't just invade their space, it reveled in it. With hearts pounding, the couple replayed the tape repeatedly, hoping to uncover some clue, but the truth was more horrifying than they imagined. Each night, the figure returned, watching them sleep, whispering guttural words that sent chills straight through the marrow of their bones. They could see it reaching for the blanket, fingers hovering above them while they lay utterly unaware. What they found next froze their blood. Days melded into weeks, days where the couple thought they were alone. The figure, it seemed, had become bolder, inching closer with each tape until it wasn't just lurking anymore, it was testing boundaries, crossing lines that should never have been crossed. Just when they thought they had enough evidence to confront the nightmare, a sudden realization hit them like a punch to the gut. In one of the final clips, the camera caught something, a slip of paper where they'd hidden it, fluttering to the floor. They hadn't put it there, it had simply appeared under their bed during those chaotic nights, its meaning shrouded in a haunting anonymity. Determined to piece together the fragments of their shattered safety, they began digging deeper, but every step revealed even darker secrets about their home and its former tenants. No longer was this just about a stranger haunting their lives. There was a deeper connection they could not yet see, a ghost woven into their very foundation. Just when it seemed they were uncovering the truth, the final frame of the last video abruptly cut to black. No warning, no explanation, just silence. The camera had captured it all, but at what cost? As the weight of their reality pressed down on them, the couple faced a chilling question: were they stalking the figure, or was it hunting them? And in the heavy silence that followed, another thought slithered into their minds, echoing like a distant whisper: what truly lies behind the camera's lens? Because in the darkness, anything could happen. The quiet that enveloped the room was suffocating. It was a silence thick with fear, knotting their stomachs tighter with each passing moment. They exchanged glances, hearts hammering in their chests, contemplating the unseen force lingering just beyond their perception. "Should we call someone?" Sarah whispered, her voice shaking as shadows flickered on the walls, playing tricks on her mind. The thought of bringing in outsiders, people who might not understand, only made the suffocating atmosphere heavier. "No," Mark snapped, instantly regretting the volatility in his tone. "We have to handle this ourselves." It was a wild, frantic energy ignited by desperation. They sat in the dim light of their living room, surrounded by the remnants of their life together. It felt wrong for it to be so peaceful when lurking just outside their perception was something deeply menacing. The next day, Sarah combed through every inch of their home, looking for any signs of a breach, any indication that someone had been inside. She searched like a woman possessed, hands trembling yet determined. Mark stayed behind, rewinding the footage of the previous nights, desperate to find answers, a clue he might have missed. The clock showed 10 p.m. when the door creaked open. They had become experts at detecting the slightest sound, and Mark's heart dropped. Sarah froze, grounding herself against the wall, peering around the corner. "Mark," she breathed, terror apparent in her eyes. "I'm here," he replied, voice low, almost a whisper. The sound of footsteps crept closer. They both pressed their ears against the wall, straining to catch any hint of who or what might be approaching. The soft thud of a shoe made sweat bead on Mark's brow. Then, silence. Their breaths hitched in unison, as they locked eyes, a silent moment of understanding passing between them. They moved instinctively toward the hidden cameras, frantic fingers checking the recordings. As the image flashed to life, a pressure hung in the air. Time stood still. The screen displayed their living room, the only sound their labored breathing as they waited for 2 a.m. to arrive, the witching hour when their tormentor emerged. Then, it happened. The shadow slid from the corner of the room, barely noticeable at first. But as it drew closer, the figure took form, a blend of darkness, long fingers stretching toward their belongings, the same sinister grin plastered on its face. "Stop!" Go away. Leave us alone. Sarah shrieked, her heart racing as if it might leap out of her chest. Mark lunged for the remote, desperate to turn off the video, but it was too late. The figure turned its head slowly toward the camera, locking eyes with them. The smile widened unnaturally, revealing teeth that seemed to glisten in the pale light. Panic surged within him as he fumbled the remote, unable to tear his gaze away. The figure began to whisper something. The words were unintelligible at first, but then they sharpened, resonating through the room like a horrible incantation. It was almost rhythmic, like a chant, sending icy tendrils wrapping around their hearts. "Mark, we need to run," Sarah urged, her eyes darting toward the door. But as they turned to flee, something caught Mark's eye, a flicker from the corner, a movement that froze him in place. On the floor, just beneath the couch, was another slip of paper. He bent down, feeling each heartbeat echo louder than the last, fingers trembling as he picked it up. The message was chilling, written in jagged handwriting, "I'm closer than you think." As the air thickened, night engulfed their home, and it struck them both, they hadn't just become the hunted. They were trapped in a game with the shadows, and every next move only played into the deranged hands of whoever dwelled within their walls, and just as Mark's determination flared, the laughter echoed through the room, a haunting melody that made the very air shrink away. What had they invited into their lives? With cold dread pooling in their chests, they turned back to the camera, knowing the worst was yet to come. And in the growing darkness, a new realization cut through them. The sinister figure wasn't just a threat, it was a harbinger of far deeper horrors, waiting for the right moment to unleash their chaos. What lay ahead was uncharted territory, a descent into their own worst fears. The air turned electric, each heartbeat echoing like a drum against the suffocating silence of the room. Mark's hands shook as he held the note, the jagged edges of the paper cutting into his palm. "I'm closer than you think." The words spiraled through his mind, taunting him. "What do we do?" Sarah's voice broke through his swirling thoughts, laced with panic. She clutched his arm, her grip tight and unyielding. Mark's instincts kicked in. "We need to move now." He threw the note aside, the chilling message seemingly alive as it fluttered to the floor. He glanced back to the camera feed one last time, the dark figure still grinning at them, like a predator savoring its prey. They stumbled backward, Sarah pulling Mark toward the front door. It creaked ominously as they pushed through. The night air outside felt like a shocking contrast, refreshing yet tinged with dread. They could still hear the laughter in their ears as they sprinted down the porch steps and out into the driveway. "What's happening?" Sarah gasped, her breath catching in her throat. "What does it mean?" "I don't know." Mark stammered, looking over his shoulder as if expecting the shadow to follow. "But we can't stay here. We need to find help." The car sat silent, a stark reminder of the world lingering around them. Mark fumbled the keys, hands trembling as they fell onto the pavement, clattering loudly in the stillness. "You're not going to make it that easy," a voice wove its way through the darkness, unmistakably familiar. Mark froze, stepping into the shadow of the house. "Who's there?" he called, heart racing. The laughter returned, the sound more sinister now. It wrapped around him, a grotesque lullaby that made him feel weak at the knees. The atmosphere shifted, it felt alive, thick with malice and a looming sense of despair. "Run, Mark!" Sarah's scream broke the trance, jolting him back to their emergency. They scrambled into the car, slamming the doors shut like a shield against the darkness. As he started the engine, the headlights flickered on, illuminating the street ahead. For a moment, there was nothing. Just empty darkness beyond the reach of the lights, a silent void that felt almost comforting compared to the chaos they just left. But then, from the periphery, that menacing figure slipped into view, melting in and out of the shadows. It raised a hand, the gesture was calm, almost inviting. "You cannot escape what's yours," it seemed to whisper, the words curling around them. Mark slammed on the gas, tires screeching against the asphalt. They shot down the street, desperation fueling his every move. Behind him, The darkness seemed to ripple as laughter chased them through the night, echoing down side streets, intensifying with every heartbeat. What the hell was that? Sarah gasped, sheer terror in her words. No idea, Mark panted, his knuckles white against the steering wheel. But we need to find a place to hide. Somewhere safe. Do you think it's still following us? God, I hope not, he muttered as he navigated through endless blocks that felt too familiar, memories intertwining grotesquely with reality. As they approached an old diner, lit with flickering neon, another sinister message found its way to them. It will be watching, it echoed in unison with the shadows swirling around the building. Without thinking, Mark pulled into the parking lot, a sense of foreboding gripping him. We can't get too comfortable, he said, trying to catch his breath. They opened the door, the bell ringing overhead, exposing them to the strange atmosphere inside. But as they stepped in, every hair on Mark's body stood on end. A figure stood in the corner booth, shrouded in dim light. A twisted smile slowly stretched across a familiar face. Welcome, it said softly, strings of familiar laughter escaping its lips. I've been waiting for you. And as the realization crashed down upon them, a new dread settled, one that promised this nightmare was only just beginning. Mark's heart thundered in his chest. He stood frozen, caught in the gaze of the figure in the booth. It was the last person he expected to see, his brother, Alex. But the look in Alex's eyes was wrong, it was like something primal had taken root in his soul. Alex? Mark choked out, each word fighting against a tightening throat. What are you doing here? Isn't it obvious? Alex drawled, leaning back like a king surveying his domain. I came to find you. Find me? Sarah echoed, taking a step closer to Mark, her voice trembling. Why would you want to find us? Alex shrugged, and the smile twisted further, something sinister lurking beneath the surface. You're playing a dangerous game, and I didn't want to miss the fun. Fun? Mark snorted in disbelief. This wasn't fun, it was a nightmare come to life. We need to get out of here. Now. But as he turned to leave, the diner doors swung shut on their own, sealing them inside with the oppressive atmosphere thickening around them. Flickering lights overhead cast erratic shadows, dancing in sync with Mark's desperation. Where do you think you're going? Alex's voice turned sharp, slicing through the tension. You can't just run from your past, Mark. It always catches up. Panic slithered through Mark's veins. This isn't about the past. We're in danger. He looked around, the faces of other patrons now glaring at him, twisted with malicious joy. They're all in on it, aren't they? The show's just beginning. Alex leaned forward, eyes gleaming with a manic thrill. Don't you want to see what happens next? As the laughter surrounded them, Mark felt his stomach churn. No. You're not making any sense. He grabbed Sarah's arm, urgency boiling over. We have to find a way out. Suddenly, a cacophony of laughter erupted from the seemingly innocent diners. It felt like the room shrank, closing in, the walls pulsating with a dark energy. One of the patrons rose, stepping into the light. It was a woman, her eyes glassy and vacant, betraying a deeper insanity. You can't escape this place, sweetie, she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. You should have stayed hidden. What do you mean? Sarah whispered, backing into Mark, her breath quickening. What do you want from us? Everything eventually. The woman cackled, and the other patrons followed suit, laughter mingling with sickening cries. It formed a dissonant symphony of dread. Mark felt trapped, the urge to flee mixing with desperation to protect Sarah. This is madness. He shouted, but the weight of Alex's gaze held him in place. Why are you doing this? Because you need to see, brother. You need to understand the cost of your actions, Alex said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You thought you could leave it all behind? This darkness is part of you. Just like it is part of me. No. Mark yelled as dread wrapped around him like a shroud. "Get away from her." In an instant, the whole diner erupted into chaos. There were screams and shouts, plates crashing, and then the lights flickered once more, plunging them into darkness. Mark's breath hitched as he grabbed Sarah, pushing through the rows of tables. He could hear the laughter rise in volume, overlapping with a harsh cacophony of whispers. It was all around them, a malevolent presence that seemed to reach for him. "Mark!" Sarah cried out, her voice cracking, pulling at his heart. "Stay close," he urged, his voice barely cutting through the tumult. That he spotted a back exit. There was a chance, a glimmer of hope. But just as they rushed for it, a figure blocked their path. It was Alex, eyes wild, now dripping with malice. "You can't run!" he screamed, his smile distorting into something grotesque. "You haven't seen the real show yet." Mark halted, fear gripping him. Just beyond the door lay freedom, and yet standing before him was the embodiment of everything he had buried within himself. Was there a way to face this, to emerge from the dark nightmare? "Mark, we have to go." Sarah yanked at his arm, but he hesitated, torn between fleeing and confronting the twisted truth laid bare before him. And as the laughter receded, momentarily, just as a wave pulls back from the shore, Mark realized he was trapped between the desire for escape and the haunting pull of the past that had come alive in the most horrific way. The moment stretched, both as a testament to their fear and an invitation to a deeper understanding of who they truly were. But even as he steeled himself to confront Alex, the diner's laughter swelled once more, drowning out his thoughts, twisting reality as Mark stepped forward. What awaited him beyond that door, and was it truly salvation, or an even deeper descent into horror? Mark felt the weight of his brother's presence, heavy and suffocating. The laughter from the diner surrounded him like a thick fog, seeped with the stench of dread and madness. He glanced at Sarah, her wide eyes filled with terror, reflecting the chaos swirling around them. "Mark," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the cacophony. "What do we do?" "We're getting out of here," he decided, summoning every ounce of courage. The back exit loomed behind Alex, just a few feet away, but it felt like miles. With a quick nod, he gently squeezed Sarah's hand, urging her to stay focused. "On three." Three. The word hung in the air, pregnant with tension. 2. He took a deep breath, adrenaline coursing through him. 1. They charged forward, hearts pounding in unison. Alex leapt sideways, blocking their path, eyes glinting with a feverish intensity. "You really think you can escape?" he shrieked, laughter twisting into madness. The diners erupted behind him, their collective mirth a horrifying serenade. Mark faltered, the laughter piercing through his resolve. "Alex, stop this!" he shouted, his throat tight as if it had been gripped by an invisible hand. "You don't have to do this." But the words fell on deaf ears. Alex stepped closer, breath hot and rancid. "You're so naive. You're just a pawn in my game." The diner's door rattled, as if eager to be opened though it remained solidly shut. Panic bubbled up inside Mark. "What game?" "We're not playing." The uncertainty in his voice finally broke free, shattering his facade. He could feel the abyss of his brother's madness pulling him closer. "Every choice has a cost," Alex hissed, raising a finger like a preacher in a frenzy. "You left me. You thought you could escape? I'll show you how deep the roots go." Mark's vision blurred as he struggled to comprehend his brother's descent. No longer was Alex the sibling he remembered, he was something darker, a twisted reflection of their shared past. His brother's voice echoed in the disturbing silence that followed, growing louder with each word. "Everyone here knows, Mark. They know you, your secrets. They want to see you crumble." A stomach-wrenching feeling surged within Mark. The laughter of the diners now morphed into jeers, mocking his fight or perhaps enticing him to give in to the horror. "Shut up!" Mark yelled, voice cracking. He pushed through the crowd of diners, each pair of eyes seemingly boring into him like daggers of judgment. Their grinning faces weren't human anymore, they were grotesque masks of glee, reveling in his unraveling. "Mark!" Sarah's voice rang out behind him as she pulled him back. "We can't leave each other. Stay with me." He turned to her, and for a fleeting moment, the disarray faded. "We can do this together," he assured her, the weight of conviction fueling his resolve. But then, just like that, the laughter crescendoed again, overwhelming. Diner patrons stood up, blocking their escape, becoming a wall of madness. The air thickened, bursting with tension as if the very place was alive. As he pushed against the tide, Mark felt the indirect pressure of Alex behind him, relishing the display his own personal puppeteer. "You're too late," Alex shouted, his laughter deepening with madness. "You chose this night to play, now face the consequences." "Mark." Sarah gripped his arm, eyes wide as fear cascaded through her. What is he talking about? But Mark had no answer. He couldn't think. He could only feel the pressure building, the weight of familial ties twisted into something sinister. The lights flickered violently, and a chill swept through the diner as reality rippled around them. Cold sweat trickled down Mark's back. No matter how hard he tried, he felt like he was slipping deeper into a ghastly play where every choice led them further into darkness that he needed to confront his brother, to face not just Alex, but the shadows of the past that haunted him. "Alex," Mark growled, voice steady despite the chaos. "You're not going to take us down with you." The laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by a ravenous silence, thick and menacing. Black shadows danced in the corners, lurking, waiting. "What will you do, Mark?" Alex sneered, his voice hypnotic. "Will you stand your ground or let the darkness devour you whole?" As he steeled himself, Mark realized that the real horror was not only what lay beyond the diner doors, but what lurked inside his own soul. What choice would he have to make to save himself and Sarah from this nightmare? Mark clenched his fists, heart racing, as the silence enveloped him like a suffocating blanket. The diners shifted restlessly, eyes trained on him, anticipation simmering in the air. Their laughter had died, leaving only the palpable energy of madness crackling around them. "Face it, Mark," Alex taunted, stepping closer. "You can't escape what's inside you." His voice was low, almost a whisper followed by a sardonic chuckle. The gleam in his eyes felt like knives, cutting through the fog of fear that surrounded them. "Get away from us!" Sarah shouted, her voice breaking the tension. She pulled Mark back, her breath quick with anxiety. Yet, even in that moment of fear, Mark could see the defiance in her eyes. She was ready to fight alongside him. The patrons leaned in closer, their faces gleeful masks of anticipation. Mark could feel their breath, warm and rank, something akin to rotten fruit. A sense of despair washed over him. Was he truly the spectacle here? Was this what Alex wanted, to watch him squirm? "Every moment you hesitate," Alex said, his voice rising, "is another moment I get to relish your downfall. Do you feel the thrill? The rush of knowing I have dominion over you?" Mark could feel the heat of shame flushing his face. The chains of doubt pulled tighter around his throat. He had to speak, to reach for the light, however dim that light was. "I want to be your puppet," he yelled back. It was a pitiful flame against the raging darkness, but it was something. "Then let us see what your bravado gets you," Alex retorted, his grin widening. He reached into the pocket of his coat, producing a small, metallic object that shimmered like the last light of a fading star. "What is that?" Sarah asked, her fear transferring into desperation. Mark squinted. It was difficult to tell from where he stood. "What did you do?" He spat, realization dawning. "You're not just playing a game, you've rigged this whole thing." "Oh, sweet brother," Alex replied, his voice a melodious taunt. "You see, when you chose to abandon me, you chose to step into my world. The choice is yours." His hand opened, revealing what looked like a small remote control with garish buttons. "This is just the beginning. With one push, I can unleash the truth on everyone here." Stop. Mark felt a fresh wave of dread wash over him, heavier than the last. If Alex pressed that button, it could mean the end not just for them, but for the whole diner. Just imagine, Mark. All the ghosts you've kept buried, surfacing for all to see. Your secrets laid bare. The deafening silence returned, as if the world waited with bated breath. Diners leaned in, reveling in the spectacle, their faces illuminated with twisted excitement. What are you going to do? Mark's mind raced, adrenaline pumping. He didn't care about himself anymore, he had to protect Sarah. If Alex unleashed whatever horrors were concealed in his heart, it would drown all of them. Mark! Sarah shouted, panic creeping in as she pulled on his shirt. You need to do something. Don't let him win. And at that moment, everything crystallized. Below the mirror of his brother's madness, there lay a flicker of truth, the family bond that had twisted into something grotesque. I won. Join your game. Mark pointed toward the remote, hands trembling with determination. I refuse to let you drag us all down. Alex's eyes narrowed, fury dancing behind his shattered sanity. You think you can deny me? You're as much a part of this as I am. Mark could feel the eyes of the diners piercing through him, weighing his worth, judging his resolve. Among their gazes, he found strength. The warmth of Sarah's grip on his arm reaffirmed his purpose. Now, do it. Alex roared, and Mark saw the smirk twist on his face. The laughter erupted again, a manic sound that echoed in the diner, a clock ticking down to the inevitable chaos. Mark's heart pounded fiercely. He could remain paralyzed by fear, or he could act, disrupting this nightmarish play that reached far beyond the diner walls. Sarah, we need to, he started, but before he could finish, the lights dimmed completely, plunging them into darkness. Only the flicker of a flame from a candle on a nearby table illuminated the scene. A single scream pierced through the din, followed by chaos. Then came the sound of the remote clattering to the floor, a metallic ding drowning in the laughter that roared anew. Mark! It was a call soaked in terror, but the voice was indistinguishable amid the frenzy. In that moment of darkness, when the din of laughter drowned everything else, Mark realized he would have to confront more than just his brother. He would have to unravel the darkness within himself. What price was he willing to pay to save those he loved before the final act unfolded? The darkness enveloped Mark, a thick, suffocating blanket that swallowed the world whole. He could barely see his hand in front of him, but he could hear the cacophony of frantic movements, the rustling of clothes, and the stifled gasps from the crowd. Panic hung in the air like mist, heavy and unrelenting. Sarah! The tremor in his voice betrayed his fear as he searched for her in the oppressive blackness. Each pulse of his heart felt like a countdown, ominous and weighty in the void. Right here. Her breath came out fast and shallow, finding him as her fingers gripped his arm. The warmth of her presence was a lifeline against the chaos. Tell me you can see anything, he pleaded, trying to pierce the darkness. Nothing. It's like we're inside a cave, she exclaimed, her voice laced with panic. Do you think he actually pressed it? What does that mean? No. Mark barked back, invigorated by defiance. He's just trying to scare us. Ahead, a low chuckle broke through the noise. Alex. It was a sound twisted with madness, echoed by the diners who reveled in the fear. They were a mob, hungry for entertainment, feeding off the terror that blanketed them. Keep close. Mark urged as he pulled Sarah along, inching toward the nearest wall. He could hear shuffling feet and muffled whispers escalating to hysteria. It felt like a scene in a horror film, where the character never knows what's lurking behind them. Suddenly, flickering lights pierced the darkness, revealing pale masks of fear on the faces of onlookers. In that brief illumination, Mark caught glimpses of their wide eyes reflecting twisted excitement. Each fractured beam seemed to spotlight the essence of terror simmering in the room. Then came the voice of Alex, sound warped and wild. Did you think darkness was your friend? His laugh cut through the tension like ice. It gives me more power. Mark's heart raced. What do you want from us? Just let us go. The lights returned, flickering ominously overhead, revealing shadows that danced like phantoms around them. The remote lay there, glimmering like an evil star, just out of reach. I want you to face the truth, brother. Alex shouted. It was a twisted proclamation, and laughter erupted again, this time with a terrifying shriek behind it. Are you seriously going to let him take us down? Sarah's words were sharp, grounding. No. Mark breathed, determination surging through him. I want to let him win. Then do something. She cried, fists clenched. There was fire in her eyes. But Mark hesitated, thinking. The truth Alex wielded was an invisible sword hanging over them, ready to fall. If I confront him, I might lose everything. I could expose I don't care. Sarah interrupted, her voice fierce. We're in this together. As the light sputtered again, a sickening feeling pooled in Mark's gut. The laughter finished and silence fell once more. It was a moment that stretched painfully in impending dread before a storm. He glanced at Sarah, the flicker of the candle outlining her face in shadow and light, and he knew. It wasn't just about Alex. This was about facing himself, the ghosts of his past, the choices that had twisted his life into this nightmare. All right, he whispered, swallowing hard. I'll face him. Together. Together, she echoed, squeezing his hand. With renewed resolve, Mark stepped forward, the laughter of the crowd dimming as they anticipated his move. This was his moment to reclaim his reality, but at what cost? As he reached for the remote, a flash of light dazzled the room. The diners screamed, but it was drowned in a collective gasp of shock. In that electrifying second, Mark's breath hitched as he realized that Alex wasn't just watching this unfold, he was orchestrating the very chaos that would define their fate. And then, one more flicker of light revealed a shadow looming behind Alex, something unimaginable, and it wasn't human. What was about to be unleashed would change everything. Would Mark be strong enough to face both his brother and the darkness creeping into their lives? The battle for his soul had only just begun. The flickering lights intensified, and Mark squinted against the sudden brightness, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. Shadows twisted and churned, morphing into grotesque shapes that writhed under the luminescence. The crowd fell silent, their faces now illuminated, reflecting a mix of dread and morbid curiosity. Alex stood there, eyes gleaming with a manic fervor, as if he were conducting a dark symphony. His wild laughter echoed, bouncing off the walls and merging with the frantic rhythm of Mark's pulse. What have you done, Alex? Mark shouted, his voice strained against the weight of revelation. This wasn't just a game anymore. The shadow that loomed behind Alex pulled itself into sharper focus, a figure with unnatural curled limbs and eyes that glowed like embers. I've given them a show. Alex declared with glee. A glimpse of what lurks beneath our skin, our truths. Mark felt Sarah's grip tighten around his arm, her breath quickening, pure dread radiating from her body. What do we do? She whispered, her eyes darting nervously. Stay close, he muttered, barely able to keep the tremor out of his voice. The reality of Alex's madness was sinking in, transforming fear into a nauseating cocktail of anger and panic. Suddenly, the shadow lunged forward, a blur of darkness that slashed through the air. Mark instinctively pulled Sarah back, his body a shield against the unknown. The diners shrieked and scattered, the chaos erupting anew as everyone scrambled to escape the malevolent force. Look at them run! Alex roared with laughter, joy sparking in his wild eyes. The truth is always terrifying. Isn't it glorious? Mark's resolve solidified as he stared at his brother, multifaceted emotions clashing within him. This isn't glory, Alex. It's madness. The creature slithered closer, its claws flickering with an otherworldly power, a mirror to the darkness festering in Alex's heart. Face your truth, Mark. Alex yelled, thrusting the remote forward like a conductor would point to an orchestra. Family binds us, but fear frees us. Don't you want to know what you hide? As the shadow exploded with energy, Mark saw reflections of his past materialize, flashes of mistakes, hidden fears, and suppressed memories swirled in front of him like a tempest. Each one burned into his consciousness, blurring the line between reality and nightmare. A voice echoed within, "Is this who you are? Shut up." Mark screamed, covering his ears, yet the truth seeped through, an agonizing reminder of his failures. The lights twinkled again, and in their brief glow, he caught a glimpse of Sarah's terrified face. Anxiety gripped him, he couldn't let her face this alone. Whatever tortured him, he would bear it, but not at the cost of her safety. Driven by sheer desperation, he stepped forward, preparing to confront the dark figure and Alex. Power crackled in the air, sparked from 1,000 buried memories clawing their way to the surface. The figure shifted into something almost human, its form a grotesque mimicry of his own likeness, eyes wide and hollow. "Mark," it hissed, its voice slithering into his ear, "face me, embrace the truth." As the shadow reared back, ready to strike, Mark steadied himself, shouting over the chaos, "I'll face my truth, but not for you." The force of his words rang through the air, a pulse of defiance. But in that moment, he realized the truth had teeth, and it was hungry. The room trembled as the shadows closed in, the distant cries of the diners fading into monstrous laughter. He couldn't turn back now. What would the truth reveal about him, about Alex? Would it shatter everything he thought he knew? With those unresolved questions hanging in the air, the darkness closed in, and Mark braced himself to unleash his hidden fears. And as the shadow lunged forward, the final flicker of light flashed, revealing something even more horrifying. A choice awaited him, one that would forever mark their destinies. Could he truly confront the truth without losing himself completely? The air crackled with tension, thick and oppressive. The shadow surged towards Mark, a harbinger of hidden fears ready to swallow him whole. Sarah's grip on his arm tightened even more, the warmth of her presence grounding him in the spiraling chaos. They stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to face whatever horrors awaited. "Together, remember?" Sarah whispered fiercely, her eyes alight with determination. "Right," Mark breathed, steeling himself. "Together." As the dark figure leaped closer, a distant echo of his brother's laughter filled the space, a twisted blend of delight and madness. "You can't escape what you deny. It's time to see who you really are." In that moment of dread, time slowed to a crawl. He saw his own fears reflected back at him, every moment of shame, every failure, flashing like a broken film reel. Without thinking, Mark stepped forward, heart racing, willing to confront the shadow that was both brother and echo of his own darkness. "I will face you," he shouted, words bursting from him like a dam breaking. The figure froze mid-lunge, as if Mark's resolve held an undeniable force. "Face your truth, reclaim yourself," it hissed, voice a mixture of everything he feared most. The laughter from the diners rose in volume, mocking, chaotic. They had become pawns in Alex's twisted game. This was no longer just a challenge of familial loyalty, it was a battle for Mark's very soul. He'd spent years running from his past, burying everything in the shadow of regret. But today, he stood at the precipice, ready to face it all. Mark turned to Sarah, his eyes blazing. "We have to fight back together. Whatever happens, don't let go." Slowly backing up, they found themselves in front of the remote that had tumbled to the ground. Mark's resolve flickered dangerously, his heart pulsed like a combat drum. Every ounce of his being screamed to resist, to not let Alex pull him deeper. But he recognized that the only way to exorcise this darkness was to confront it head-on. "Yes, let us see the truth," Alex screeched from behind, fevered excitement evident in his eyes as he surged forward. "Let everyone see. You're just as twisted as I am. I'm nothing like you." Mark felt his voice strengthen. He instinctively reached for the remote, fingers trembling, and with a decisive movement, he raised it high. The clamor of laughter reached a fever pitch, almost deafening. "I'm ready," he shouted, conviction erupting from his core. "You cannot define who I am anymore." With determination, he pressed the button that in an instant, a blinding light enveloped them, banishing the darkness like sunlight piercing through a storm. Shadows retreated, whimpering, and the room erupted into chaos. Mark felt a flood of emotions wash over him: fear, exhilaration, pain. But now there was clarity, bolstered by the strength of knowing he could confront his inner self. Suddenly, the projection of light revealed images swirling before him, memories replayed like a reel of film flashing across the diner walls. He could see moments of his childhood, bitter arguments with Alex, choices that led to pain, and the repercussions of selfish decisions. Each scene played out vividly, a testament to the darkness he had tried to ignore for far too long. With each frame, he felt the weight lighten. The laughter faded to a whisper. "You can't scare me anymore," he declared. "This one chain me." The room fell silent. The once manic laughter of the diners was replaced by hushed gasps. The figure behind Alex writhed in agony, as if bound by chains of its own making. Mark pressed forward, fueled by newfound power. "Face the truth. Not just for me, but for all of us." He turned to Alex, seeing the raw fear behind his brother's manic eyes. "You need to confront your own darkness, too." In that moment, the flickering lights stilled, the air transforming from terrifying to reverent. Could it be that Alex lingered somewhere below that twisted madness, still capable of redemption? Time felt suspended as Mark's heart raced, finally grasping a truth he had long buried. "I forgive you, Alex. I forgive us," he shouted. Reaching through the chaos to connect, the dark figure gasped, an unexpected vulnerability shining through its grotesque form. "Forgiving is a choice, brother," Alex screamed, voice cracking, a blend of rage and desperation. "You'll regret it." With that, the distant echo of laughter faded to almost nothing, leaving behind a haunting silence. The diner, with its now familiar patrons, stood still. They were no longer spectators but fellow souls wrestling with their own shadows. As the second pulse of light engulfed Alex, the facade of madness slipped, revealing a glimmer of the brother Mark had once loved. It was fleeting, but it was there. Mark turned back to Sarah, their fingers interlocked firmly. "No more running," he vowed. The din, once oppressive, now felt lighter, as if lifting from them all. Mark and Sarah stepped toward the door, still holding tightly to each other, symbolizing a bond stronger than any darkness seeking to divide them. As they made their way outside, the night air wrapped around them, finally soothing after the storm. Each step felt more liberating than the last, echoes of laughter trailing behind, but this time, it felt like freedom. With every stride into the future, one undeniable truth lingered: confronting the darkness was the first step toward unleashing the light, and as they faded into the distance, they understood they'd embraced not only victory over fear but a renewed belief in themselves and the power of love to overcome even the darkest night. This is where they were meant to begin anew. You've witnessed it all here, the confrontation of fear and the embracing of truth. To not miss any more exclusive stories like this, you need to subscribe now. Hit that button immediately to be part of our journey. Smash that like button, let us feed the algorithm and keep this community thriving. Flood the comments section with your theories and reactions about this wild ending. Your voice matters, let us hear it. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Show your support, because only true fans understand the importance of staying connected.